Hey, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Blitz with your guy, Levon Kirkland. Man, I have always wanted to tell stories. I've always been curious about origin stories. Even when I was looking at Batman from my cousin's bedroom, I always thought it was fascinating. So I have a show that's going to talk about people, amazing events, situations, and also things that can help you become a better person and live your best life. Today on my show, I have a wonderful guest. I am a fan of his, Ryan Shazier, one of the best linebackers to ever play at Pittsburgh, and he's going to share his story with us here at Beyond the Blitz with Levon Kirkland. And also, just a reminder, if you out there, you're going to be in our audience, what we're calling the Monster Crew, make sure you interact with us. We want this show to be fun. We want this show to be interactive, and we're going to have a great time. So we need you guys to make sure that you come on and interact with us. And now, without further ado, my main man, Ryan Shazier. Oh man, I am so happy to have you on. How you
It's,
doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm really
Oh
happy to be
man,
here.
thank you for being the first guest on Beyond the Blitz with Levon Kirkland. And I have to tell you, Ryan, now I am a big fan of yours. Do you remember the very first time we met?
I got. I know. We met about a few weeks ago, but I'm trying to think about the very first time we met. The
See,
very
Ryan,
first. Yeah, I'm,
when
I'm
you
sorry about that. The
when
first
you're a
time.
big when you're a big star like you are, sometimes you do tend to forget guys like me. But we actually met at a autograph signing, and we
Okay.
actually took a picture together.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
so that's the
you
first
you
time
probably
we met.
you probably don't remember the first time you met Joe Green.
Yeah. What? Are you kidding me?
The
Yes,
first
I
time.
remember the first time I met Joe Green.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I don't even remember the first time I met Joe Green. So I
See,
see.
see, that's because you're such a big star.
No, no,
Now,
no. Both of y'all are
now,
bigger
the
than me.
first time we actually had a conversation though was when we were at the alumni game and they played Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh played the Jets, and
Mhm.
you actually came on the field. I mean, the fans went crazy about you. And then me and you, we had a conversation. Your wife was there, your lovely wife was there, and your son was also there too. But when we came back after halftime, they introduced guys like Mean Joe Green, and he
Yeah.
got a big time roar. And then they introduced guys like Mel Blunt, he got a big time roar. And then they came to Jason Gilden, he got a big time roar. Then they say Levon Kirkland, crickets,
No,
crickets.
that's not true at all. That's
And
not true
then,
at all.
no,
That's
no,
not
that's
true
how
at
it
all.
went. And then Ryan, they got to Antonio. I mean, they got to you, and the crowd went nuts. I mean, it was like Ryan, Ryan, Ryan. So I want to ask before we kind of get started here a little bit. Now, how was it playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, man? Give us your experience with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So to me, it's really a blessing that came true. So when you're playing in the NFL, first of all, every kid dream is to, you know, be a Super Bowl champion, be on a team that everybody loves you, be somewhere that everybody looks up to you, but everybody loves the way you play the game. And the one thing I could say in Pittsburgh, when you play any position, but definitely linebacker or the defensive
Mhm.
side of the ball, I feel like the city of Pittsburgh just gives you extra love. You
Right,
know, to me, I feel like other cities they're so big on offense, 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 but we're called Blitzburg in Pittsburgh.
right.
It's not called. I remember we had the Killer Bees with Ben, Antonio,
Hmm.
Martavius, and Le'Veon, but still, it was our defense that led the charge to getting us to where we wanted to be. And to me, I think the city just really recognized that you can't win without a defense. You can't win a championship without a defense. And your defense has to step up. And to me, I think it's just really a blessing to be able to play somewhere like that really just appreciates how you play the game because other fans don't really appreciate it. And then also that it's a brotherhood there. A lot of times, people say football is a brotherhood, but on other teams, you're literally just coworkers. But to me, when you came in, we talked. I felt like we known each other for a while, and
Mhm.
we didn't like you said, we met a few years ago at a signing event. But when we were talking like we were brothers, and we both understood what it's like to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers and just be able to open up and have conversation with each other and not really big time each other or anything like that. While when you're at other programs, other teams, sometimes you don't get that same type of love. So I just really appreciate playing there. You always see the alumni that come back and just really appreciate being there, and it's history. Like, everybody wants to play for a franchise that has history. Like, if you're in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence is trying to create history. Like, they don't have any championships. You're at the Jets, the history they have is so long ago, people don't even remember it. So for us, it's just the history is in our face every day. I think almost once a week or at least once a month, you're gonna see a Hall of Famer that comes by the facility or come to a game, and it just lets you know, like, oh man, like, this is what a Hall of Famer looks like. I gotta try to live up to that.
There's no question about that. When I got there as well, it was, Hall of Famers all over the place. And you really tried to live up to that linebacker legacy. Did you felt that pressure when you came into Pittsburgh that, man, the linebackers are so plentiful and they've had so many great linebackers that I got to really step up my game? Was that the feeling you had when you were with Pittsburgh?
To me, it was just more of a standard. It's like, this is the
Mhm.
standard of the linebackers. And to me, I know I've talked to Devin Bush, I've talked to other linebackers that play the game, and I'm not knocking anybody, but some people are like, man, I'm just doing the best me. I'm trying to just be the best me. To me, I've always looked at the people before me. It was like, hey, I'm trying to be just as good or better than them. So to me, it wasn't even about, oh man, it's so much pressure. It was just like, all right, this is the standard that they set. Coach trying to say the standard is the standard. The standard in front of me is Levon Kirkland, James Ferrier, Jack Ham, Jack Lambert, Lawrence Timmons, Larry Foote, all these guys that were just consistently great linebackers, and that's just the inside. And I can also go to the outside, with Jason Gilden, Kevin Green, Joey Porter, James Harrison. Like, it's just so many guys right there, and every single one of us probably been to a Pro Bowl. Every single one of us had probably a vote for the Defensive Player of the Year. So to me, it's just like, all right, this is the standard. This is what people here in Pittsburgh love, and this is how you win championships. So me, it was more about, all right, how can I live up to this standard? Because these guys have possibly won a championship, or gotten there, or won a Defensive Player of the Year, or one of the best guys in the league. And to me, being the best me is being able to live up to them, and to me, it was that, I always set myself at a high standard, and I never played football to just be a guy. I never wanted to be like, hey man, I made it to the league, and make it to the league is great, but that was never my goal. My goal was never, hey, I made it to the league. My goal was always try to be one of the best to ever do it. So when I seen all these people in front of me, it was just like, oh man, it's a laundry list of guys in front of me that have you can make an argument that some of these guys are the best to ever do it at their position. So now I got to make my way to try to be in that same conversation.
Well, you certainly did, my friend. I tell you what, man, I really enjoy watching you running all around the field, man, super fast. Now, tell me, now, what was your 40 time?
So I ended up running a 4.38 at my pro day, and some teams clock me a little bit faster. The Steelers always try to mess around with me, and so they clock me at a 4.4. But a lot of teams clock me at a 4.38. That's the fastest I ran at.
4.38. Okay, monster crew, my people that are out there, do you understand how fast that is for a linebacker? Because old Levon Kirkland didn't quite run a 4.3 at all. But man, to be able to run a 4.3 and play that position, man, that is incredible. But Ryan, I want to go back to your younger years. I mean, I initially thought you were from Ohio because you played at Ohio State, but you're from Lakeland, Florida. Can you
No,
share?
Fort Lauderdale.
Huh?
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale, my fault.
Yeah, no,
Well,
you're
look
fine.
at you saying something different. I'm just, going off the history. But you're from Fort Lauderdale. You're from, you're from the bottom, kind of. Tell me, what was that like growing up in Florida?
To me, growing up in Florida was definitely awesome. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of the adversity that I've been through allowed me to get to the NFL. So I had alopecia growing up, so I was always a little bit different. I was never like the biggest guy, and then just playing football in Florida. Every state's gonna make a claim that my state is one of the best in football. My state is the best in football, and I definitely feel like Florida's top 5. So to be able to play football versus other guys that have the ability to make it to the NFL every single week, I think it really helped me grow. And I talk to people all the time, like, man, how you think I can help my son be able to make it to a professional league if he wants to? And they said, just put him in the best competition. The best gonna thrive in the best competition. And I think that's kind of what happened with me in Florida. When I was in Little League, we had one of the best Little League teams. So it's like we always going against other really good guys. Almost every single week I played high school football. On the other side, there was 1 to 5 dudes that were going D1 to college. And so it really allowed me to go against guys that I was like, I'm going to see this guy at the next level. Obviously, you're going to go against other guys that might not go D1. But I can tell you a few guys that I would play against or that was in the same division as me, that's still in the NFL or that was in the NFL at the same time as me, that I played against in high school. So I think that really helped me develop into the player that I became.
Well, name some of those players. I want to hear what you got.
Yeah, so
areas in Florida for real.
Yeah, no, so like Sammy Watkins, he was on the other side of the state, but like if we was to play in the state championship or in the semifinals, Sammy Watkins was a guy. Teddy Bridgewater, I would have met him in the state semifinals. You had Dalvin Cook, you had Devontae Freeman, you had Eli Rogers. It was a few guys. Khalil Mack, he's one of the guys. John Feliciano, he's an old lineman for the he used to be an O-lineman for the Jags. He played at the University of Miami, and then like even somebody on my team, his name was Anthony Chickalo. Then there, it was a lot of guys, and those are just some of the names that some people will know. But there's even other guys that still made it that a lot of people don't even know, or it's some guys that might be even big time now that I don't even know that it's from the same area as me. It's just a melting pot of people that allow you to be able to play against each other, and it can allow you to play big time ball.
Well, you didn't have to brag. I mean, goodness gracious! I mean, that is a fertile land of football players. Man, that's pretty good. Now, tell me, I know when I fell in love with sports, with football. When did you fall in love with the game of football?
Man, I probably was like 4 or 5 years old. I started playing football at 5 years old, and I never stopped playing until I got hurt. So, the year after I got hurt was the first year I did not play football in my life.
Wow.
Really? Yeah. So basically, from the age of 3, 4, 5, I used to just be with my dad. My dad was a high school coach at the time. I used to just be with my dad. I used to watch football. Most kids watch Cartoon Network and all this type of stuff. I used to just watch Sports Center, as a kid. So I just really love sports. Like I love all sports. Like, and the thing is, I just was way too aggressive for like basketball, and baseball is just a very slow sport. So I just really love football. I started playing it when I was 5. And then once I got to high school, I just knew middle school, I was like, man, I don't really want to play nothing else. So I tried other stuff, but I really just want to play football. And I always, that's all I did until I got to the NFL.
So you were just a football junkie.
Yeah, I just love I just love football. I still love it to this day. Yeah.
So when you talk about being too aggressive for basketball, that means that you fouled out a lot?
No, it wasn't that. It's just basketball is a sport that it's more burst. So like you might dribble the ball down slow, or you might make a quick cut to the basket here or there, and you can't block every shot. So the thing is with me, I was always trying to block shots. I was always very aggressive trying to get the boards. I was always playing at like a football pace, and not in basketball it's more like slow paces. So you need to be fast. and I was kind of like always kind of moving a lot faster than I should be. So.
Well, let's go back a little bit about your high school. You say your dad coached you in high school.
No, he coached. So he was a high school coach. He became a
Okay.
pastor, and when he became a pastor, he didn't coach high school anymore. But he was a high school coach when I was younger, and I used to just go to a lot of the games. And he used to just teach me about football. So I used to just learn about football with him. When I was younger, I used to learn coverages and understanding what this mean or that mean, and then when I got older, I just started to really learn more and more about each and every coverage. With my dad, and then one thing that really helped me is with my dad being a coach, it just taught me how to be more of a coachable player. If I try something and it doesn't work, he was like, "Hey man, sometimes you gotta try something else," and I think that really helped me out a lot. While a lot of guys try to rely on what they know best, and it's like I'm sticking to what I know best. With my dad being a coach, it kind of teach me like, "Hey, sometimes what you're doing is not working. Sometimes you gotta listen to somebody else, and it might work out."
Sure, sure. Now, you said your father was a pastor, correct?
Yeah, he is a pastor.
He's a pastor now. My father was a pastor as well. Could you tell people how being a PK is? Were you kind of sneaky? Were you that
Yeah,
kind of?
so I'm gonna be completely honest. It was definitely one thing that I learned the older I got is that my dad is obviously he's a pastor, but he's also a father. And I think the
Mhm.
biggest thing that a lot of kids fail to realize when they're PKs is like, oh, my dad's a pastor. I can't do this. I can't do this. Or I can't tell him this. I can't tell him that. And so it's like you become sneaky. Then the older I got, I was like, man, like if I just went to my dad with these situations, I probably wouldn't even be in the situation I'm in now. And I think that really helped me out a lot. But obviously, you see how your dad is trying to lead other people into walking in the right path.
Right.
So sometimes you were scared to like, oh man, should I talk to my dad about this? Oh man, I like this girl. Should I talk to my dad about this? And it was like, oh no, I'm just gonna talk to somebody else because I know what my dad's gonna say. And then as I started to get older, I was like, man, I probably should just went to my dad with this information.
Right.
And I think the situation would have been a lot smoother. And I think that's the biggest thing with a lot of PKs is like we understand that our fathers are pastors, but sometimes we completely forget that they're fathers. And I think if we do a better job of just understanding that our dads are fathers and not just pastors, I think a lot more PKs won't be in the trouble they're in right now. Or people would say, oh, PK kids are bad or that type of situation.
Yeah, I understand that. I felt the same way, but I have one of those innocent faces. I mean, if you look at the
Yeah.
temple, you would never think I get in any kind of trouble, but of course I did. But I agree with you, man. Just having a good father like myself and you, I mean, it is amazing, man. And it does so much for kids to do that. And now, also, Ryan, I just want to kind of go a little bit more into your high school career. I mean, you come in as a freshman. I mean, are you on JV? Are you on varsity? Or how does it go for you in your high school career?
So in high school, my freshman year, I ended up going to this school called Blanchile High School. So the guy the guy that was the senior on that team was Patrick Peterson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was a senior when I was a freshman, and he was a 5-star. Like Pat was like Mr. Everything. It was
Yeah.
kind of crazy, and he played quarterback, running back, receiver, punter, DB. Like he did everything for us. So I went to a school called Blanchile High School, and I was playing JV. Got moved up to varsity. We went against a school in Florida called St. Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Freshman year. But they had way more guys than we did. Like they actually have like 6 guys from that team that we played in high school that went to the NFL. Like Giovanni Bernard was one of them, James
Right.
White was one of them, Marcus Gilbert. So it was just like our team was good. We almost upset them, but we ended up losing the game. But but that school was good at football, but it wasn't the greatest academic school, and it was very like a trouble school, kids getting in fights and stuff a lot. So I had gotten like 3 fights my freshman year. So my parents ended up transferring me out of school.
Right.
And I ended up transferring to the school I went to as it's called Plantation High School. So
Plantation,
my godfather, he was the head coach of that school. My sophomore year, and then another reason I transferred from Blanchile. In the springtime, I tore my labrum and dislocated my shoulder. And when I did that, I had surgery, and like none of the coaches like checked up on me.
Hmm.
Like nobody was like, "Oh, is he okay?" Or like, "What's going on?" Nobody
Right.
checked on him. So my mom was kind of, upset about that. Um, and so I ended up transferring to the school called Plantation High School. And when I transferred there, I had to play my second year on JV because I had just messed up my shoulder. So my coach was like, "It's no point in rushing. Just play JV, and then if you do well, you'll move up." So I did. I crushed it in JV. I like was manhandling kids in JV, and then
Right.
I ended up moving up for the playoffs. In the playoffs, and we end up doing well. But what's crazy is I was doing so well in JV. I ended up getting offers for colleges from JV.
Wow.
Yeah. So my first offer was from Florida State, and then they start coming from there like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, all the big time schools. And I just moved back up to varsity, and then the next 2 years I had like 20 sacks my junior year in high
Gee.
school, and then I had like 16, and I missed like 5 games my senior year.
Wow. Well, they just
Yeah.
opened the gate for you, man. Just let you get all those sacks. My
No, it's just
goodness.
when you run a 4-3, you can just run past people, So
Ah, when you
yeah,
run a
so
4-3, I get it. I
yeah, no,
understand.
so my coach just put me on the at the end, and I just
Right.
literally ran around dudes, and I kind of cut off one half of the field. So basically, my team had to do the other part. We didn't win any championships or anything. We always got to like second, third round, and always got kicked out of the playoffs. But we're a pretty solid team.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, do you go back to your high school? One of the questions was, do either one of us go back to our high school and say hello or visit those kids that are there? I go back. I went back last year a little bit and played and really talked to some of the ex athletes that we had. It was kind of a cool thing that I went to do. How about you? Do you ever go back to your high school and say hello and let them
Yeah, yeah. I go
break?
back and say hello here and there. Like I was saying, my godfather is still the coach at the high
Right.
school.
Okay.
He's probably gonna go. He's gonna probably go in the Hall of Fame
Uh huh.
for my county for coaching. Like he won the state championship at the school that I got in trouble at, but he wasn't a
Sure.
coach then. He won the state championship at that school. Came to this school, went to state, then lost like 2 years ago. But
Right.
his team, he's very old school with how he plays football. Like they run wing T still.
Oh wow.
Nowadays everybody runs spread. So
Right, right, right,
so I go back here and there. I just don't go home as often as I should. Me and my wife
right.
actually had a conversation about that, and I was like, "Man, Michelle, you go home more often than I do." And she's like, "Yeah, because you never say, hey, let's go to Florida," And I was like, "Yeah, you're right
Right,
about
right, right,
that." Because I just be here
right.
in Pittsburgh.
Okay, sure, sure, sure. Now, I got to say, I was surprised that a guy from SEC country that goes to Ohio State. How do they let you out of the state running a 4-3?
So
What in the world?
my favorite school growing up was Florida State. So my first offer was Florida State.
Right.
But my father, the one thing that he did, he was like, "Man, Ryan, this is gonna be a business decision. So you're not about to make any just impulse decisions." So he was like, "You're not committing on the spot. You're not doing this. If you go anywhere, you're talking it over as a family." And he's like, "It's your decision, but and then you're not. The one thing I'm not gonna let you do is make a bad decision for your life. You're not picking nowhere because of jerseys. He's like, you're gonna pick somewhere that's the best fit for you."
Hmm.
So I had committed to Florida. Florida just came off of 2 national championships. I committed to Florida. Tim Tebow was on the senior year, and then Coach Meyer, he had a situation where he was having really bad migraines, and then he retired. So when he
Right.
retired, the day he retired, Ohio State and LSU were both at my school, and I had literally 3 weeks left to go to figure out what school I was going to go to because I ended up going to school in December. And in January, I was an early enrollee,
Right.
so I had like 2 or 3 weeks. So literally the next day after Urban Meyer retired, I visited LSU, was there for 3 days, came back, visited Ohio State for 3 days. Ohio State wasn't like the greatest visit. It was probably my worst visit out of every visit I had. But the reason I ended up going there is because I just thought the atmosphere, the guys that I was around, the coaching staff was like really good at just actually coaching the guys, developing guys. And Ohio State was the one school up north that can compete for championships, even though it's cold.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm not going anywhere up north unless it's Ohio State. Only way I'm going somewhere up north is if they're competing for championships. I'm not going anywhere else. And so I ended up, visiting Ohio State. And honestly, it was more of a blessing that Coach Meyer resigned from Florida, because I probably would have ended up at Florida.
Wow. So tell the audience, and we kind of got into a back and forth about Clemson and Ohio State. And people kind of in South Carolina know about the culture of Clemson. What we all about? We're all about playing for championships, Ryan. You understand that? We're all about playing championships, and we're all about beating Ohio State. But can you tell us a little bit about Ohio State and the culture?
Yeah, man. So Ohio State culture is more like it's crazy. Ohio State is almost like an NFL team. So
Right.
the thing is, like Clemson, it's big, but for instance, like Clemson has you guys have South Carolina. You have a lot of other schools that's competing for championships, competing for time. Obviously, South Carolina girls isn't as big as Clemson football, but you guys have a lot of other stuff competing for. I'm saying it's not as big. I'm saying, but you guys have a lot of stuff competing for. Hey, man, if Clemson playing football today and Carolina Panthers playing football today, some people in South Carolina are going to be watching that Panthers game the same day. In the NFL in Ohio, if Ohio State is playing football, literally the whole state shuts down. Like it could be the Cavs playing, it could be the Bengals playing. People like it doesn't matter. Like it's like almost like a high school football team. It's just the whole state shuts down, and we could be playing Akron, we could be playing Alabama. No matter what, that stadium's going to have 110,000 people in it, and they're going to be rooting for it. If it's rain, sleet, snow, hurricane, people bleed Ohio State there, and they just really love it. And I think that's one thing that I really loved about going there, and because Ohio State is probably not a USC obviously, but it's one of the schools that is a big time school in a big time city. It's not a lot of schools like that. Clemson is more in like Clemson, South Carolina. It's close to Greenville, but it's not in Greenville. And Greenville is still, probably top 100 cities in the U.S. While Columbus is top 15 cities in the U.S. It's right there in the middle of the city. USC is a whole different dynamic. That's a private school. But it's not a lot of schools like Ohio State, which is a public city school that the whole state loves, that shuts down just to watch them play. And then I can literally go anywhere in the country and just, if I'm in a large crowd, and just scream out OH, and somebody's going to scream IO.
Somebody's going to do it, yeah.
Yeah, we have like one of the biggest alumni bases. And it's a blessing when you're playing, but also it's a blessing when you're not, because, when you're done playing, it really allows you the opportunity to talk to people that's in the network, and it can help you succeed in after football as well.
I tell you what, I had that experience. I was coaching at FAMU one year, and we played Ohio State at Ohio State.
I was on that team.
I was a defensive coordinator, and I was like, please don't beat us by 100. I thought you guys.
I was on that team.
You were on that team?
Yeah, I was on that team.
I just wanted some of your guys' third string, man. It was just ridiculous that we played you guys. But the atmosphere is, like you said, I mean, they were loving it. I thought there would be people like, we're not going to go to the FAMU game. Ohio State playing FAMU.
No, they're going regardless.
They were there, man.
There's going to be 100,000 people if it's FAMU or if it's, Georgia. It's going to be 100,000 people there.
It was big time, but as a defensive coordinator, I was like, please don't score over 100 points. And I think you guys could have.
It was close. It was close. I know it's not your fault. I'm just saying, but it was close. I think it was we scored like 76.
Ryan, we did get an interception on your guys' first drive.
Yeah, I remember that.
We tried to run out and we fumbled the ball.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, he caught an interception. I'm like, bro, why you ran that out? I was like, that's literally the worst decision you could have made when you ran.
But honestly, he had a point, because I asked him the same thing. I was like, so why do you run it out? And I said it like a teacher, and he was like, Coach, I thought my guys were blocked for me, and I had a chance. And you know what? Honestly, he was kind of right. But yeah, we just didn't have a good day. I mean, next time we're gonna play you guys a little tougher. But that was a tough game. But I dig the atmosphere. I mean, you guys at Ohio State got it going on. Even though Clemson and Ohio State, we don't kind of get along, but I thought, and I give you guys much respect, great atmosphere. I see why guys go there, and you guys do compete for championships. So that was a great place to go. So you made a wise choice. Now we're gonna go to your draft day. Tell me, I mean, I had my experiences being drafted, but you were drafted in the first round. I think you were drafted number 15. Tell me what that was like. Were you there in New York at the time, or wherever they had it?
Yeah, I was in New York at the time, and the one thing I told myself is, if I get the opportunity, I'm definitely taking it. And because every kid that really loves sports and that been a fan since they was a kid, they probably had one moment. It was like, in the first round, I'm drafting, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ryan Shazier. It's like most kids do that. Even if you no matter where you get drafted,
Right.
unless
Yeah.
you're like a kid that just got blessed with athletic ability and just end up start playing. And he was like, all right, I'm playing because I'm good at it. A lot of kids had that moment. It's a lot of kids nowadays that's staying at home with their family and their friends and think it's fun. But to me, I thought it was amazing just to go out on that stage and be able to like, hey, I made it. I made it to the NFL. So it was a pretty cool experience, and I just really enjoyed it. We went to New York. That was my first time visiting New York too. So I was able to go see the city, spend time with my family. I ended up getting drafted, left to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers the next morning. And it was a dream come true. It was for me and my family. So if I can have that day all over again, I would definitely do it.
Right. Now tell me what did you wear? What kind of suit you have on?
Yeah, I had like a dark green suit on.
A dark green suit.
Yeah, it was like a dark green suit. And now I look at it, it wasn't bad. It was a pretty cool suit, but I definitely think now looking at myself, I probably would have had it would have been a little bit sharper. But I thought it still was cool. I still have that suit in my closet to this day. I didn't do anything with it. To me,
You didn't frame it or anything like that?
No, I didn't frame it, but that suit definitely meant a lot to me. So it's still in my closet. I'm probably never gonna wear it again, but I thought it was pretty awesome to be able to go in the first round and that was the suit that I had.
Well, that's kind of fantastic. A green suit. I don't think I ever had a green suit, even as a kid, doing my Easter speeches, having a green suit.
No, it's not that color green. It's like almost like an olive green. So olive green is
olive green. Okay.
It's a little lighter than olive green, but it's like almost an olive green, close to turquoise. So it wasn't too bad.
So tell me a little bit about. So I got to ask you, does the suit still fit though?
Like I said, I haven't tried it on, so I don't know. Probably it won't. I definitely gained a little bit of weight, so it probably don't fit.
Okay, that's cool. So you get there to Pittsburgh, man. Tell me what was the first week or the first year like being drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, tell me a little bit more about that.
So it was pretty cool. The atmosphere and the team was awesome. The thing that kind of threw me off was I knew that getting drafted in the first round, I was gonna have to work for my spot. But I thought I was gonna come in. There's gonna be a guy in front of me. I was gonna have to like prove, hey Ryan, you gotta work your way up. I think the last guy that started for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a rookie before me was you.
Yeah.
So yeah, and to me, I was just like, I'm probably not gonna start. I'm gonna, go in there, work my way up, and just figure things out. And then Coach Tomlin was like, hey, no, Ryan, you're starting from day one.
Wow.
And you're gonna be calling the plays. So I was like, wow, so it put a lot of pressure on me. But the thing is, I think it really helped out because it really allowed me to not be lazy, but not really take a break. Right. It really made me always like be on my P's and Q's. And if I called something wrong, I had at that time, before things changed and the league is a lot younger now than it used to be. But back then, I had a bunch of guys that were in year 10, year 11, year 12. So I might make a call, strong right, strong left, and they'll be like, no, it's this way, it's that way. You need to do it this way. You need to do it that way. So I'm making calls, and I have to gain the trust of my teammates. And that was one thing that it took a while for me to understand and to be able to deal with it. But by the time I got to my fourth year, I was able to call everything. I was able to organize my team in the right positions and just orchestrate everything the right way. And I think Coach Tomlin doing that my rookie year, obviously I got hurt a bit. It allowed me to be able to play at the level that I was able to play because I just knew where everybody was supposed to be at.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment. I remember the first time I did the same thing that you did, and I had to call the huddle, and Coach Kyra was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to take over," and I'm like, "What do you mean by that? You're not gonna give me any kind of tips or anything like that?" I mean, that had to be a big adjustment for you to be able to stand in front of guys that are older, that are more experienced, and you're in a leadership role. Now, a lot of people don't really understand the inside linebacker is almost like the quarterback of the team. I had to stand in front of guys like Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd, Rod Woodson. They're looking at me kind of cross-eyed like, can this rookie really make it?
Yeah.
Was that one of your big adjustments as well, just trying to fit in?
I think one thing about me is I'm almost like a natural chameleon. So I like fitting in isn't really that hard for me. The thing that was hard for me was just more I wanted to prove to the guys that I knew what I was talking about.
Right.
You know, I just didn't want them to be like, "Hey, man, this kid out here don't know what he's talking about." You know, and I've been in huddles sometimes because you know, once you start actually getting the calls, and you actually, it's like once you start making the plays and setting the calls, and everybody's starting to trust you, that's your huddle, that's your team.
Yeah.
You know, so when you get in there, and then now you have like a backup guy or somebody else come in, and they're trying to make checks and make calls, you're like, "Yo, what are you doing?" You know,
Yeah.
and to me, that was kind of how I felt guys looked at me at first, and it was like, "Man, what are you doing?" You know, so now once I figured things out, it was more, I was kind of doing the other guys like, "Yo, what are you like? What, like, no, don't mess up my call. Don't mess up.
Be quiet.
Yeah, don't mess up my call.
My huddle, be quiet.
Yeah. So
you do what I say.
Yeah.
Not what you say. And even if I get it wrong, we gotta listen. You're gonna play that call.
Yeah. So it's been a few times, especially once I got older, because Coach Tomlin started to tell guys like, "Hey, I don't care what Ryan says. I don't care what Ryan says. And then y'all from now on, y'all gotta listen." So at first like my first year, it was tough. Obviously, I had a bunch of older guys, so I would miss a call here, miss a call there. My second year was, you know, sometimes guys would question stuff. Mm-hmm. And then basically by the end of my third year, it was basically like, I'll tell them, "Hey, I don't care if I make the call run. You running it. You know, like you gonna run it." Because at the end of the day, like, but the thing is though, I will also take the fall for them if they mess up.
Sure,
so like he would, like, I will make a call, he don't think it's the right play, he'll mess up, and I was like, "Hey, yo, coach, that's on me. You know, I put him in the wrong position. I did this or I did that." So then I also would gain his trust and be like, "Dang, I messed up, but he still took the fall for me." But to me, then I would talk to him like, "Hey, yo, let's just get on the same page, bro. I understand everything might not be perfect. I know this looks different to you than it looks to me, but in the day, we all got to be on the same page, or we gonna lose." Right. You know, so it took me a while to get to that and understand that. But by the time the year I got hurt, everybody on my team, it didn't matter on the defense. It didn't matter if I said the sky was purple. It was like, "Yep, you're right." You know, and you know they might have said something else in their head, but it was like, "You're right." And sometimes they might not believe me, but a pick would throw a ball, hit them right in the face. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna listen to Ryan." You know, so it's this, you know, so it kind of worked its way out. But it took me all the way from my rookie year to get there.
Right. I love that position. I really did. I love the authority. I love that I got to understand the game a little bit better. Now we're going to go into, man, you're making Pro Bowls. You're doing really well. And then something happened in Cincinnati that kind of changed your life. Could you just explain to our audience, you know, how that was, what you were feeling at the time when you were down like that?
Yeah, so we were playing Cincinnati Bengals. It was crazy. I wasn't even supposed to play in that game. I had sprained my ankle. But my rookie year, my rookie year I got hurt. My sophomore year, my second year I got hurt. My third year, I had missed like 3 games. So I was just like, man, I'm not missing no more games. And it was an ankle sprain. And I didn't practice one day that week. Coach Tomlin said it's a game time decision. If you don't play, I understand. And I was like, I don't care. I'm playing. I'm gonna be all right. I'll figure it out. Right. And I ended up, and it was just a regular drag route. Everybody, you tackle thousands of drag routes in your career. It was a drag route, and I tackled them. And one thing about the NFL, they're trying to work on safety. So I was like, let me think about actually tackling him and trying to get my head out of the way. When I made the tackle, I actually hit him in the hip because I was trying to get my head out of the way. and it caused me to fracture my vertebrae and caused me to be paralyzed. And in that moment, I didn't know what to think. I was more focused on my family and just like, man, I hope everything's good with my wife. Hope she's in a good space. I just bought her a dog. I was like, what I'm about to do with this dog? I was kind of thinking more about like, yo, this can't be real. It's probably like more like a stinger. I'm gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm.
It was never like, oh man, I'm gonna be done playing football for the rest of my life. And it was crazy. I was kind of in denial at first because to me, I made tackles that were way worse. I got hit way harder. It was a lot of situations in my life in football that were way worse than the situation I got hurt. So it was never in that moment I thought I was gonna be done playing.
Wow. I mean, I remember that play, and I remember you being down. It was heart wrenching to me because let's face it, Ryan, that's everybody's fear. We don't go into games thinking we're going to get hurt. We don't go into games thinking that we're not going to be able to walk away from the game. But you were in that situation. And even as a player that was retired by the time, I really felt for you and your family. And I was just like, man, just praying for you, just hoping you got better. You came back from that. You came back from that, which I don't know if a lot of people would. So can you tell me your mindset that got you back on track of even walking again?
Yeah, my mindset was more about just, in football, you get an injury. Like before I got hurt, I told my wife, it was like, hey, worst case scenario, if I get hurt, I'm going to get an Achilles or ACL, I'm going to be all right. I'm probably going
Right.
to be back. I told her at the beginning of the season, like, if I get hurt this year, hopefully I don't get hurt. But if I get hurt this year, the worst case scenario, I'm probably going to get an ACL or Achilles, and I'll be out for a year. That's going to suck, but, I'll be back. I'll be able to come back and, try to fight for another contract, this or that. But that was kind of my worst case scenario. I never thought like, hey, I'll never be able to play football again. But my mindset when I got injured was one day at a time, like laying one brick at a time.
Sure.
I remember I think it was Will Smith. He was saying he did something with his father and his brother, and they were building a house or building a wall, and he kept asking his dad, like, man, how long is this wall gonna take, man? How long is this wall gonna take? And he said, man, son, it's going to take one brick at a time. He's like, if you do one brick at a time, by the time you look up, it's going to be done. And that's kind of how I looked at my injury. I was like, in football, when I hurt my MCL, I did one rehab at a time. When I hurt my finger when I was younger, it was one rehab at a time. And that's kind of how I thought about it when it came to this rehab. I just set short-term goals, called them first downs. And I know I played defense, but I called them first downs. And I was like, hey, if I can do something that I didn't do before, that's another first down. And I would just say, thank God for another first down. Thank God for another first down. Thank God for another first down. And then once I did something that a lot of people never thought I would be able to do, oh, that's a touchdown. Boom, I was able to stand up. Boom, I was able to walk. That's a first down. That's a touchdown. I was able to dance at my wedding. That's a touchdown.
Right.
So I would just convert those first downs into touchdowns. And that's kind of how I looked at my injury. And the thing is, I'm a pretty positive guy, but my family, they did a good job of just constantly just keeping me positive, constantly making sure that I didn't change who I was. And I think that really allowed me to continue to get better and stay healthy and to be able to move forward. And that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the draft that the draft that you walked on. Everybody saw you walk. I mean, what was that like? Because I can't imagine being in your situation doing that. But you walked on that stage, and people just erupted. I mean, tell me, what was your mindset then?
So my mindset then was more about just letting people know thank you. I know a lot of people pray for me. A lot of people was wishing me okay. And a lot of people constantly ask like, how Ryan's doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? But nobody really saw me. Nobody saw me doing anything. Nobody saw me when it came to rehab. I wasn't putting out no videos. I wasn't doing no articles. I was trying to make sure I told my own story. I didn't want nobody else to tell my story, because if you give your story to somebody else, they'll run with it and say, oh, this is what happened, and that's not what happened. So I just wanted to make sure I control my own narrative. And when I had went to this event, and it's supporting Mr. Rooney and his family. It's called the Ireland Fund here in Pittsburgh,
Right.
and Roger Goodell was at the event. And when he went to the event, I was just talking to him. And he said, "Hey Ryan, do you think you'll be able?" And then he just said, "How are you doing? How's your rehab going?" And I said, "I'm doing a lot better. I can't complain. I'm just blessed." And I said, one of my goals is hopefully if the Steelers make it to the Super Bowl, or I'll try to walk at the Super Bowl. And he was like, "Hey, if they don't, do you think you'll try to walk? Do you think you'll be able to do it at the draft?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah." At that moment, I could not walk yet, So
Right.
I was like, "Yeah." So I just went back
Right.
to my therapist and told him, "Hey, I just told Roger Goodell I'm going to be walking at the draft." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You haven't even started yet." And I was like, "Hey, well, there's my goal." So we just started going every single day about how I can get better at that. So every day wasn't just about trying to walk. Every day was just actually just trying to get better, being able to fix my balance, being able to take another step, being able to make sure if I stumble, how to correct myself. And we just I had a few months to lead up to that moment. And then once I got out there, it was very nerve-wracking. But the thing is, I played in the NFL, so there was a lot of people that always booed me. There was a lot of people that cheered for me. And I was just thinking, hey, just get to that stage without falling. And I just went down there and just did everything I could. And I was just thankful that I was able to do that.
Oh man, that's amazing. I really enjoy your story, and me and the Monster Crew, everybody's on this podcast, man. We want to thank you so much for sharing with us. But before you go, I want to see if you want to play a little game with me. It's kind of a rapid fire game. It's kind of like Family Feud.
Okay.
Where at the money thing, we want to see what you got. Okay.
All right. Let me hear what you got.
Are you okay with it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here we go. You ready? Name a house you never want to be in.
A house I never want to be in?
Yep, a house you never want to be in.
I don't want to be in a prison.
Okay, here we go. Next question is, name something associated with vampires.
Dracula.
Dracula, okay. Next one, name something in a bakery a baker might call his wife.
Honey.
Honey, okay. Name something in a person's closet that only comes out on a special occasion.
Oh man. Pearls.
Pearls, okay. And the final question is, if you can go to the land of Oz, what will you ask the wizard for?
Oh man. To me, it'll be health.
Health. Okay. Cool beans. Now let's see your results. You kind of took a little long. It's not quite like Steve Harvey because I think he would have ran out of time.
I ain't gonna lie, that first one is definitely wrong. I know that one for a fact.
No, okay, let's do it. We asked you, name a house you never want to be in. You said jail. The number one answer is haunted house, but jail was number 2, so you get 11 points for that. Good job.
How many points am I trying to get?
Well, we don't really care. We just kind of want to see how many points you get. You're not going to get a prize or anything. So
I'm just asking.
Just play the game, okay? And here we go. Next one. Name something associated with a vampire. You said, what did you say? You said
Dracula.
Dracula. Ryan, Dracula only got like 5 points. The number one answer is Twilight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yes. Okay. The next question was, we asked you, name something in a bakery a baker might call his wife. You said honey bun.
No, I said honey.
It still works. You said honey. Number one answer, 32 points. Good job.
All right, I say here. That's
there it is. Now we're getting competitive, huh?
Yeah.
All right, the next one. Name something in a person's closet that only comes out on a special occasion. You said, what do you say?
Jewelry? I said jewelry. I said pearls, but it's probably jewelry.
You said pearls. That got you 10 points. The number one thing was a suit. I was thinking like the green suit, you would get that.
No, see, I go to a lot of like business things, so like so
So
I'm
suit is
thinking.
not a big deal for you.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, just when a lot of business casual people wear suits a lot, so I wouldn't think like,
Right. But suit tuxedo was number one. I
oh,
didn't make this up. I'm just reading them off. So far you got 58 points. I mean, I was hoping you get 100, but the next one was, if you could go to the land of Oz, what would you ask the wizard for? You said health.
yeah,
Man, you're very close. Health was number two with 17 points, but money.
yeah, money is one. I know money is one, but I'm talking about for me. So I
Talking
don't
about
know.
for you, but I guess I should
Yeah,
say survey says. But you ended up with 75 points, man.
I appreciate it. All right, that's
Man,
not bad.
congratulations, man. You did a really good job. You almost got 100 points by yourself. That's pretty good.
I did. The first it threw me off a little bit. The first one, the Twilight one threw me off a little bit, and then the suit. I wear a suit here and there, so I ain't think about it, but.
You didn't think about the green suit that you got?
Not because I had suit popped up in my head, and I was like, no, I'm gonna go jewelry. Yeah,
Right. Well, but anyway, man, you did a really great job.
no, I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for playing. And do you want to tell our audience anything that you're doing currently that they should be involved in?
Yeah, so the one thing you can catch me on a podcast as well. It's called "Don't Call It Comeback." It's like a play on words from
Right.
Cool J, but it's more about just comeback stories. When it comes to historic franchises, when it comes to teams that haven't done well, when it comes to players like Geno Smith, where everybody counted him out, and he came back, and now he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So.
Right.
It's just a podcast that just talks about a lot of wonderful topics when it comes to comebacks, and we would definitely love you guys can check us out.
Oh man, we will definitely check you out. Where can you find it?
So you can go on the Wondery channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts, you can just type in "Don't Call It Comeback" and you can find it on there. So Amazon Music, Wondery channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Man, Ryan, man, thank you so much for sharing your story, man. We really appreciate it. I hope you had a good time. Do you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a great time. I really appreciate being on. Thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for being on. And the Monster Crew, man, you got to give Ryan some love, man. This guy was outstanding. Uh, well, Ryan, take care of yourself, man. Tell your family I said hello, even though they probably don't know who I am. Tell them I said what's up. But
I will.
anyway, next time, please check us out with Beyond the Blitz with Levon Kirkland. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk to some amazing people. Thank you, Ryan, again for being my first guide. I really appreciate it. And everybody, make sure you take care of yourself. On the Blitz with your guy, Levon Kirkland.